Today we are at Parmigiani Fleurier to talk about a watch collection that we believe is really one of the big success of the last few years. This is the Tonda 1950. It looks like a very classical watch, has a very balanced design, but it's only 3 years old. Can you explain us a bit the genesis of this collection?
But the genesis is quite easy. A few years ago, about 6, 7, 8 years ago, we had the feeling that the trend will come back to the very simple, classic, elegant watches. Since few years, you have a lot of very complicated watches, very sophisticated but complicated. And we were convinced that one day the pendulum will go back to the very simple one. And we decided first, before developing the watches, to develop the movement. So we developed a movement, a very thin movement, very high quality movement. And from this movement, we designed the watches with all the codes of the brand. The profile of the watch is the same profile as any watch is at Parmigiani. And the dial is exactly a dial from Parmigiani. And everything is 100% Parmigiani.
And indeed, you mentioned that the movement is really thin. I believe it's only 2.6 millimeter, but the case is a bit thicker, so you have a bit of extra room there. Why didn't you do a thinner case for it?
You know, in design, what is important is the proportion. It's not to be thick or to be thin or to be big or to be small. It's like for human being. You know, a human body, ladies could be very thin, but not very elegant. And a lady could be a little bit more bulky, I would say, and would be very elegant. So it's a question of proportion. And we were thinking that the 1950, it's maybe a little bit arrogant, but we had the feeling that this watch is very at a good proportion. It's not too thin, but it's thin enough to be elegant and to be for a daily use. We are not following the record. We are following the good taste, which is a little bit different sometimes. For us, for example, to develop the 1950, design-wise, we took 2 years, to develop this watch. It looks stupid because it looks so simple, but we needed 2 years to develop this shape. We made, I don't know how many prototypes before to get the good one. We made maybe more than 20 prototypes before to get the good shape. And that's why it's so difficult. But suddenly you have the impression, the feeling that you get the good one, You put the watch, the prototype on the wrist, you said, this watch is a good one. And when a simple watch like that has a good proportion, the result is a man or a woman buy the same watch.
Yeah, that's true. That's the interesting thing, is that you have the same watch for men and women.
And no one woman asks us to design another watch like that. They buy, and they used to buy for the last 3 years, and they still buying this watch exactly the same as for men. Okay, the color of dial is changing, sometimes we put diamonds, things like that, but the watch is exactly the same, because you put this watch on a small wrist, on a small lady, you put this watch on a big guy's, on a big wrist, it's perfect.
And so what is the response by the market to this watch?
So the response is honestly is very good, because we were a little bit lucky that one of the biggest customers style is very concerned by this type of watches, which are the Chinese. The Chinese consumers like very much this type of watches. It's basically the first watch they used to buy, which is a very thin, elegant, and classic watches. So we had a very good success for the first 3 years, and we are now developing this line with different style, different dial, different small complication like a moon phase. We will come with a moon phase. We'll come this year with a skeleton. So we make a collection around this 1950.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.